Okay. Hi.
Fantastic. Howdy, everybody. This is Big Mike. I am here with Zuri Horowitz. She is a candidate in the Democratic primary for Congressional District 5. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. In El Paso County, Colorado, pretty much everything west of Peyton is in the district. It's all within El Paso County, Colorado. So yeah,
Sure. And what are your major population centers down there?
Colorado Springs is the biggest one. Then there's Monument, there's Fountain, there's Falcon. There's a bunch of, different places all over the place, but the
Okay.
biggest population there's Manitou Springs, but the biggest population center is Colorado Springs. Although, there's a mix of rural and city.
Sure. All right. And tell me, Zuri, you've come out as a pretty strong progressive candidate. Tell me what your priorities are. Tell me what you're looking to get done as a congressperson.
So I'm fighting for affordability, good union jobs, universal health care, affordable housing, making sure that we have like 17,000 missing placements for childcare. So working on that at the, making sure that we work on that at the federal level, state, um, county, and then city level to make it a little bit easier and more efficient for like those centers to open up. Um, and just kind of, and then behind that, we're dealing with a ton of runaway inflation. We're dealing with people not having jobs. And a lot of that is due to Trump and what he's chosen to invest in. And so making sure that our allies can trust us by impeaching and removing Trump, making sure that we reform the Supreme Court, which can include expanding the court, putting in term limits, making sure that we have a code of ethics that's enforceable, and then also putting in a constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United, which would require three-quarters of the, I think it's two-thirds of the Congress, including Senate and House, and then three-quarters of um, state Congresses legislatures to pass. I hope it's not reversed, but that's about so it's a big barrier to pass over. But the thing is, when it comes to somebody who puts in tariffs randomly, somebody who is deporting immigrants and having masked men on the street go and kidnap people without a warrant, without a badge, without any identification, we need to be very clear that we don't stand behind this person, because how can our allies trust us? How can the population trust us if we don't have actual consequences for those actions? And so that has to do with affordability. Affordability, because what he's doing right now is basically taking out all the people that harvest our food, work construction, work in restaurants, and then we're replacing those middle class jobs with AI. So people don't have middle class jobs, and then they have more, it's like more expensive. AI is also ramping up the expense of people's utility bills. All the
Right.
while, instead of investing in green energy, which is like gangbusters in other countries like solar, where it's cheaper and less expensive, and it is happening in California and it is happening in Texas. But these are so it's all kind of interconnected, and if you don't have the fundamentals of the economy down, you can't say vote for us every 2 years and then somebody else comes in, has totally different allies, has completely different policies, nothing you can trust, is not working on the fundamentals of the economy. You have to reassure all your allies, you have to reassure the population that we are strong, that we are fighting for you, that we are fighting for affordability, that we are going to get universal health care, whether that's Medicare for all or making sure that we have insurance companies that are nonprofits, that have like strict regulations, that have strict costs per procedure, per drug. There's a lot we can do. And we have to have a party that's fighting for that affordability, whose true north isn't, unrelenting monopolies. I would not call that capitalism. I would just call it monopolies and oligarchy. And instead is focused on everybody, middle class, uh, working class, having a living wage and being able to afford what they need in their life. So I went off for a minute, but
Yeah, you
here we
covered a
are.
lot of territory.
Yeah.
But for the most part, what it sounds like to me is what you're saying is Democrats, basically, we need the government to be much more involved in the economy.
To a degree. So what I would say is what we have now is the government is very involved in the economy for the oligarchy. The government is supplementing really, really, really like the government is supplements Palantir, it supplements all of these companies, or it helps them, merge. It helps protect them from making sure that workers are able to organize. Like we aren't asking it. Like I think that more than that, I would say, first off, we have to recognize that the government can do good things for people.
Absolutely.
And like, but that doesn't mean that it's set it and forget it. We've gotten used to this idea that in democracy, I know what I'm talking about, so I don't need to hear from you. That's absolutely not true. We will put in policies and we will try them and they will not work, or they might be a good idea, but you need to tell me, can I open the portal? Like if you can't or open your healthcare portal, then, it's like we have to all be really engaged in it. But a lot of it too is just checks and balances, like a return to checks and balances, where Congress checks the president, where SCOTUS follows the Constitution. So, and where even if it ends up being healthcare, it could be Medicare for all, but also where you have a counterpoint from insurance companies where they're actually focused on providing care, where we actually don't have Meta being able to buy up all of its competitors so that we don't have good robust social media companies, where we actually have a focus on human beings and their strengths and goods and services rather than just profits. And that isn't necessarily saying that the government's in control of everything. It's just saying, hey, be a better ref. Like,
Yeah.
come in, and when you're undermining workers and workers can't organize, like, that's a problem. That doesn't
Right.
mean that you say what workers ask for necessarily. It doesn't necessarily mean that you tell businesses what they can and can't do, but it is saying, hey, if you're undermining competition, if you're not letting other companies develop, that's a problem.
Yeah, and to bring that home, we just saw, I think it was either today or yesterday, Trump said, Colorado, you can't close your coal-fired power plants. But at the same time, he's ending all subsidies for wind and solar. It's like, okay, well, so basically it's okay for you to get involved on their side, but anything that helps the people, anything that helps the climate, anything that hurts fossil fuels basically is out of control.
Well, and I was like listening to this podcast. I really like. It's like I can't. It's like unlearning economics, but basically, it's like you're making a choice. Like you can value people, you can value having like technology, you can have value being cutting edge, or you can value just making a profit. And like I kind of don't. I'm not a person that cares that much about like the name of the philosophy, but what's actually happening in it? What are you actually valuing? And if you're not valuing people, if you're only valuing profit, which is, I think, not good, then,
Yeah.
people are at a disadvantage and people struggle because, you don't have a government that cares about people being healthy, that cares about people being happy and educated and housed and, successful and being able to be innovative. So,
Right.
you know,
So I've got two major issues I want to get to. Number one won't exactly be in your wheelhouse, but tell me where you are on redistricting Colorado.
that one I would be for. I really like an independent redistricting commission. I think that's great. If we're dealing with Trump and he's having everyone gerrymander, I'm fine with gerrymandering. I think nationally it should be against the law. But in
Agreed. Yeah.
this climate, we have to do what we need to do.
You can't unilaterally disarm, right?
Yeah. Sorry, and we only have
Um,
one more minute because I talk so much. So
okay.
that's the last question. I'll go fast.
Okay, real quick, I wanted to give you huge kudos. You came out very strong in favor of Bernie Sanders ending arms to Israel. I know you are half Israeli yourself. Tell me what that means for you.
I mean, it's hard. Like, if Israel wasn't killing Palestinians, I probably would have lived in Israel. I mean, like at least for 6 months so that I could be fluent. My half my family lives there, but you can't murder people, you can't get rid of infrastructure, you can't like there's something horrific about bombing hospitals and schools and mosques and like getting rid of people's culture, and that's just not okay. And then I'll just say you can find me at zuriforcd5.com. Please donate if you'd like, if you can. That really, really helps. I don't do a ton for donation because I hate that that's such a big part of everything. But thanks so much for having me on.
Thank you, and thanks for your help with my new setup and everything. Hopefully, we got everything taken care of. If we do still have time, I'm Big Mike. I am on Patreon. You can find me to support progressive news and candidates here in Colorado.